Have you ever felt like a prisoner in your own body? For more than 10 years, I have worked with men over the age of 60, and believe me, I have seen something that can change the way you look at life. Some enjoy their days full of energy, playing with their grandchildren, traveling, and sleeping deeply through the night, while others wake up 5 or 6 times every night, feeling a burning sensation when urinating and the constant impression that their bladder is never completely empty. The most striking thing is that this doesn't depend on luck or perfect genetics. Very often, the difference lies in daily habits so small that they seem harmless, but over time, they silently inflame and enlarge the prostate. Imagine Mr. Robert, 73 years old, walking into the clinic with a smile and feeling well-rested because he sleeps without interruptions, and then, in the same week, Mr. James, 67, appears with dark circles under his eyes and exhausted from constant trips to the bathroom. Why does one live peacefully while the other does not? The answer lies in what they do or fail to do every single day. Today, I want to share with you what I have learned after hundreds of consultations and medical studies. We will go through a countdown of the 10 most harmful habits for the prostate, what happens inside your body, and, most importantly, what you can do to reverse the damage, because believe me, many men are surprised to discover that they were unconsciously repeating the single most dangerous habit of all. Before we continue, I would love to know something to connect with our community. Which city or country are you watching from? Write it in the comments. I love getting to know people who truly care about their health, and it helps me create content that is more useful and relevant for you and your region. Now, let's get straight to the point. Habit 10. Drinking too little water. I completely understand the logic that many older men follow. If I drink less water, I will get up fewer times at night to go to the bathroom. In the short term, it may seem like a good strategy, but in the long term, it is one of the most damaging traps for the prostate. When you drink too little water, your urine becomes concentrated. This means that instead of being a clear, light liquid, it becomes more acidic and full of salts and waste. Imagine that the delicate walls of the bladder are like thin paper, and that concentrated urine acts like sandpaper, irritating them again and again. That irritation does not stay there. Over time, inflammation spreads to the prostate, causing swelling and discomfort. Additionally, many men take medications such as diuretics for blood pressure or antihistamines for allergies, which already promote fluid loss. If this is combined with drinking too little water, it becomes a perfect scenario for the prostate to suffer. I remember the case of Mr. Michael, 70 years old, who came to the clinic with a burning sensation when urinating and frequent urges to go to the bathroom. He had no infections. The problem was dehydration. By gradually increasing his water intake, in just a few weeks, he noticed less burning and fewer urgent trips to the bathroom. The key is not to drink 2 liters all at once before going to bed. The ideal is to hydrate little by little throughout the day, taking small sips every hour and observing the color of your urine. Pale yellow is perfect, good hydration. Dark yellow means you need more water. Having a glass as soon as you wake up, after a whole night without liquids, will make your body and your prostate thank you. Do not wait until you feel thirsty, because by the time you feel it, you are already dehydrated. Proper hydration not only protects the prostate, it also improves memory, energy, and joint health. And the best part is it's free and available to everyone. Habit 9. Sitting too much. I often tell older men in consultations that they have unknowingly become prisoners of their own chair, and I am not just referring to those who work in offices, but also retirees who spend much of their day in front of the television reading or using a computer. The problem is that sitting for hours puts constant pressure on the perineal area. That area between the anus and the genitals, that constant pressure compresses blood vessels, reduces circulation, and deprives the prostate of the oxygen and nutrients it needs to stay healthy. In addition, the pelvic floor, made up of muscles and ligaments that support the bladder, weakens when left inactive for so long. The result is urine leakage, a sensation of incomplete emptying, and a higher risk of prostate inflammation. I remember the case of Mr. David, 69 years old, a passionate woodworker who could spend 5 or 6 hours straight sitting at his workbench. He came worried because he felt burning and increasingly had trouble emptying his bladder. After ruling out infections, the cause was clear: lack of movement. I suggested applying the 30-by-2 rule. Every 30 minutes, stand up and move for at least 2 minutes, whether walking around the room, going up and down a couple of steps, or simply stretching. Within a few weeks, he told me that not only was he urinating better, but he also felt more energetic and had less stiffness in his back. That is why, if you spend a lot of time sitting, set reminders. You don't need a gym. Just interrupt sedentary behavior and get your circulation going. Those small breaks are medicine for your prostate, your bladder, and even your heart. Habit 8. Too much caffeine. Morning coffee, that familiar aroma, is often a sacred ritual for many men. The problem is not a single cup occasionally, but the excess caffeine that accumulates day after day. And it is not just in coffee. It is also present in black tea, some soft drinks, energy drinks, and even chocolate. What happens when it is consumed in excess? First, caffeine acts as a mild diuretic, meaning the kidneys produce more urine, and although that may seem good, it actually increases pressure inside the bladder, forcing the prostate to work against the flow. Second, caffeine directly stimulates the bladder muscles, making them more sensitive and reactive, which leads to more urgency, involuntary leaks, or the feeling of not being able to hold it. And third, very few people know this. Caffeine causes the neck of the bladder to contract, making it harder to empty completely and leaving urine residue that becomes a breeding ground for infections and constant prostate irritation. I remember the case of Mr. Anthony, 67 years old, who always came with his 1-liter coffee thermos, saying it was his fuel to stay active. I suggested gradually reducing it from 6 cups a day to 3, then 1, and finally switching to decaffeinated coffee. The results surprised him: less urgency, fewer leaks, and better sleep at night. It is not about taking away the pleasure of your favorite drink, but about finding balance. You can choose decaf, herbal teas like chamomile or rooibos, or simply alternate with water. Believe me, your bladder, your prostate, and even your deep sleep will thank you. Habit 7. Too many spicy and processed foods. On many tables in the United States and Latin America, a meal without a touch of spice or some processed meat seems incomplete, and of course, we enjoy the flavor, but we rarely think about what these foods silently do to our prostate. Very spicy foods contain capsaicin, the compound that creates that burning sensation. In small amounts, it can be beneficial, but in excess, it causes inflammation throughout the body, including the bladder and prostate, making them more sensitive and irritable. Adding to this is the avalanche of processed foods that are so common today: sausages, fried snacks, instant soups, bagged snacks, fast food, all loaded with salt, trans fats, and chemical preservatives. Excess sodium promotes fluid retention and puts pressure on the bladder, while trans fats and certain additives disrupt hormonal balance and stimulate the production of dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, a hormone directly linked to prostate growth. A clear example is Mr. Richard, 68 years old, whose daily diet included spicy sausages, ham, and heavily seasoned stews. He came with burning sensations when urinating and constant nighttime awakenings. After reducing spicy foods to a couple of times per week and replacing processed meats with fish and legumes, in 2 months he returned saying he now slept through the night and no longer felt that constant burning. The key is not to forbid yourself the flavors you enjoy, but to find balance. You can use anti-inflammatory spices like turmeric or ginger, add more fresh vegetables, oily fish like sardines or salmon, and nuts such as pumpkin seeds, which are excellent for the prostate. Remember, what you put on your plate each day can be your best medicine or your worst poison. Habit 6. Holding in the urge to urinate. Many older men do this without thinking. "I'll go later. Now is not a good time," they tell themselves. But holding in urine is one of the worst things you can do for your prostate. When the bladder fills and is not emptied, it begins to stretch more than it should. This stretching puts direct pressure on the prostate, compressing its tissues and forcing them day after day. Over time, this constant pressure encourages prostate enlargement. Additionally, Urine that remains too long in the bladder becomes a breeding ground for bacteria, leading to urinary infections that can easily spread to the prostate and cause prostatitis, a painful inflammation that is difficult to treat in older men. I remember the case of Mr. Fernando, 75 years old, a card game enthusiast who could spend hours without going to the bathroom so as not to interrupt the games with his friends. One day, he came to the clinic with fever, chills, and severe lower abdominal pain. The diagnosis was a prostate infection resulting from a urinary infection caused simply by holding it in too long. The solution is simple, but it requires a change of mindset. If you feel the urge to urinate, do so as soon as possible, even if you are watching television, in a meeting, or in the middle of the night. Emptying the bladder regularly protects the prostate and prevents complications such as infections, stones, or unnecessary pain. Going to the bathroom is not an inconvenience. It is an investment in your long-term health. Habit 5. Smoking, active or passive. Few things are as damaging and in so many ways as tobacco. Many think it only affects the lungs, but the truth is the prostate also suffers from the effects of smoke, both in active smokers and in those who breathe secondhand smoke. Cigarettes contain more than 7,000 chemical substances, and at least 70 are recognized as carcinogenic, including cadmium, benzene, and formaldehyde. When these substances enter the body, blood vessels constrict, reducing blood and oxygen flow to the tissues. The result is that the prostate loses the ability to repair itself, becomes more easily inflamed, and ages more quickly. Tobacco also increases oxidative stress, a process in which free radicals attack cells, accelerating their wear and tear. In the prostate, this results in chronic inflammation, a higher risk of enlargement, and even an increased likelihood of developing prostate cancer. I remember the case of Mr. Richard, 68 years old, who had never lit a cigarette in his life, but had worked for decades in a closed auto repair shop, surrounded by smoke from his colleagues. He came with chronic coughing and urinary problems, and his prostate was just as affected as that of a regular smoker. The good news is that the body has a great capacity for recovery. Quitting tobacco or avoiding smoke-filled environments improves circulation within weeks and reduces the long-term risk of prostate diseases. Breathing clean air is a gift for your whole body, and your prostate will thank you with every breath. Habit 4. Ignoring medical checkups. In many cultures, especially among older men, there is a belief that enduring discomfort is a sign of strength. Phrases like, "it will pass," or "I'm not the type to run to the doctor for everything" are repeated endlessly. The problem is that the prostate rarely gives clear signals in the early stages of disease, and when symptoms appear, it is often already too late. The first signs that something is wrong are subtle: a weaker urine stream, getting up one more time at night, taking a few extra seconds to start urinating. Many see it as a normal part of aging and do not seek help. I remember the case of Mr. Henry, 72 years old, who came one Tuesday morning with unbearable pain and total inability to urinate since the night before. We had to send him to the emergency room immediately. After inserting a catheter and stabilizing him, tests showed severe prostate enlargement that had been developing for years. When reviewing his history, we discovered he had had clear symptoms for a long time, but never went for a checkup. He himself said, "If I had come earlier, I would have avoided this scare." That is why I insist, from the age of 50, and especially after 60, an annual urological checkup is essential, including a physical exam, blood tests with PSA, and, when necessary, a digital rectal exam. I know for some this may feel uncomfortable, but it is a quick and painless procedure that can save lives. Early detection allows you to treat enlargement before it causes serious damage and even cure early-stage prostate cancer. In medicine, timing is everything. Don't wait for pain to force you to run. Schedule your checkup every year. Habit 3. Eating too much red meat. A good grilled steak, a family barbecue, or oven-baked chops are part of our culinary traditions. The problem is not enjoying red meat occasionally, but making it a daily and excessive part of your diet. Numerous studies have shown that a diet very high in red meat, especially in its processed forms such as sausages, hot dogs, or bacon, is associated with increased inflammation in the body and the presence of potentially carcinogenic compounds. One of these compounds is heterocyclic amines, formed when meat is cooked at high temperatures, such as on a grill or in a pan. These compounds have been linked to an increased risk of prostate cancer and other tumors. Additionally, red meat contains arachidonic acid, a type of fat that, in excess, promotes inflammatory substances in the body. And we know that chronic inflammation is the perfect environment for the prostate to enlarge and generate uncomfortable symptoms. I remember the case of Mr. Samuel, 66 years old, a meat lover who ate it almost every day. He came to the clinic with pelvic pain and difficulty urinating. After explaining the connection between diet and prostate inflammation, he decided to reduce red meat to twice a week and substitute it with fish, chicken, and legumes. In 3 months, not only did his urinary symptoms improve, but he also lost weight and lowered his cholesterol. The key is not to eliminate meat completely, but to moderate consumption, 1 or 2 servings per week, lean cuts, gentle cooking methods, and for the rest of the week, prioritize fish, chicken, and plant-based proteins. Your prostate and overall health will thank you. Habit 2. Accumulating abdominal fat. Many older men think that belly that appears with age is natural and inevitable, but the truth is that abdominal fat is one of the worst enemies of the prostate. Unlike superficial fat that accumulates under the skin, visceral fat surrounds internal organs such as the liver, intestines, and, of course, the prostate and bladder. This fat is metabolically active, producing inflammatory substances and an enzyme called aromatase. The result is that aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen, disrupting the male hormonal balance and promoting prostate growth. Additionally, extra weight in the abdomen puts constant mechanical pressure on the bladder and prostate, leading to increased urgency to urinate, a sensation of incomplete emptying, and discomfort when sitting for long periods. A clear example is Mr. Leonard, 70 years old, who came worried because he had to go to the bathroom every hour and had difficulty urinating. His abdominal circumference was significant, and tests confirmed an enlarged prostate. Part of his treatment included a plan to reduce abdominal fat, dietary changes, and daily walks. In 6 months, he lost several inches from his waist, and most importantly, his urinary symptoms improved significantly. The solution is not an extreme diet, but sustainable changes. Fewer refined sugars and ultra-processed foods, more vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, and healthy fats like those in avocado or olive oil. For exercise, simple activities such as walking 30 minutes a day, swimming, or practicing Tai Chi make a difference. Losing abdominal fat not only protects the prostate, but also improves heart health, energy, and quality of life. Habit 1. Living with chronic stress. Of all the factors that harm the prostate, this is perhaps the most invisible and, at the same time, the most underestimated. Chronic stress is unseen and untouchable, yet its effects are felt throughout the body, including the prostate. When we live under constant tension, financial worries, family problems, or illnesses affecting ourselves or loved ones, the body continuously produces cortisol, the so-called stress hormone. In small doses, cortisol helps us respond to emergencies, but when it remains elevated day after day, it causes systemic inflammation and disrupts hormonal balance. Excess cortisol reduces testosterone, weakens the immune system, and leaves the prostate more vulnerable to enlargement and inflammation. Additionally, continuous stress directly affects the pelvic floor muscles and the nerves that control urination, as if the body were always on high alert, with tense muscles and a more sensitive bladder. I remember the case of Mr. Gabriel, 70 years old, who cared for his sick wife day and night. He came to the clinic with constant pelvic pain, urinary urgency, and sleepless nights. Tests showed no infection or severe prostate enlargement, but the stress was obvious. By teaching him breathing techniques, encouraging daily walks, and dedicating at least 20 minutes a day to his own well-being, his symptoms began to improve within a few weeks. Managing stress is not a luxury. It is a fundamental part of healthcare. Simple strategies include diaphragmatic breathing, inhaling through the nose counting to 4 and exhaling slowly through the mouth counting to 6, light exercise such as walking, stretching, or practicing Tai Chi to release endorphins, social contact, spending time with family or friends to reduce the sense of burden, and getting enough sleep, because deep rest regulates hormones and repairs tissues. If you feel overwhelmed by stress, do not hesitate to seek professional support. Controlling it will not only give you mental peace, but also be a powerful ally for your prostate and quality of life. Now that we have gone through the 10 most harmful habits for the prostate together, let's recap. Drinking too little water, sitting too much, overconsuming caffeine, eating too many spicy and processed foods, holding in the urge to urinate, smoking or being exposed to smoke, ignoring medical checkups, eating too much red meat, accumulating abdominal fat, and living with chronic stress. The list may seem long, but I want you to remember something very important. You don't have to change everything at once. Start by choosing one habit this week and begin gradually. It could be drinking more water, standing up every 30 minutes to move, or cutting coffee in half. The essential thing is to take the first step. With each improvement, even a small one, your prostate will notice. You will sleep better, have less urgency to go to the bathroom, more energy, and above all, greater independence to enjoy the life you want. Caring for the prostate is not just about preventing disease. It is about protecting your well-being, your rest, and those simple moments that make life valuable. A peaceful walk, a night of deep sleep, a conversation with your grandchildren without constant interruptions. Your experiences and decisions can inspire other men. Remember, taking care of your prostate is taking care of your future and the moments you still want to enjoy.